How you doing, guys? Hey, Donald and Pedro and GMT Master and Stefan and GMT Master. Good evening. From all over the contaminated. It's little Austrian humor we got there, huh? Hi, Mark. Hey, Clyde. Beware the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Hey, Joseph and Don. What's up? Is the video and the audio behaving itself today? I tried to get everything all set up. Hornsman. Ah, okay. The Hornsman. Gotcha. uh, hey, Eddie. Good. Hey, Mahita or Mahita. I'm sorry, man. I hate messing up everybody's name. Matiha. Is that right? Matiha? Let me know because I'll keep messing it up. Hey, John and Blake. Yeah, I got a question for you guys. And it goes like this. Hey, Blake, if you're going to give someone hi lead from the land of Tiger King, huh? If you had to give somebody, let's say that somebody with modest means and young like me, and they didn't know anything about watch collection. They didn't want to go into vintage. What kind of advice do you think that? I mean, like real practical kind of advice. There are larger philosophical things I know that are really important, and I'm not being facetious or anything, but I would say, what would be your advice? I mean, they say like you wanted to have some core piece of advice in watch collection, buying a watch, and so on and so forth. Um, hey, Chip and Alton, how you guys doing? Geezer and Williams watches. Hey, Junior. Matt Ia. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Matt Ia. That's a cool name. Um, read and watch everything you can. Yeah, that in a larger sense, Clyde, I couldn't agree more with that. But if you said, okay, I'm gonna let me give you something a little more concrete. Let's say you say, okay, here's a watch that I think would be a good starting watch for you to get, and here's how you go about getting it. How sort of where would you go on that? One of the things that I wouldn't say, some might, and that is consider the resale value. You're not talking about watches, you're talking about investments, all right? And that may be important. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying for you have somebody come up to you and say, I don't know anything about watches. It looks like you guys are having a lot of fun collecting watches. I don't know anything about it. I want to start. I don't have much money. I got $1,500, and anything over that'll it's not going to work. But I want to get a watch that I can really learn something from and have something valuable from. What would your advice be? Have to work on a presentation about capital punishment. How about this one? Let me see. I can help you here. I know all about capital punishment. Somebody, let's see. I used to think anyone who stole a bicycle should get 5 years in the electric chair. So I'm no help. Uh, Look inside and determine what is important to you. Yeah, this is if you don't know anything about watches yet, Clyde. I mean, what you say is absolutely correct. Um, And same here, same with your comment too, Blake. I would just say, okay, all right, here's a watch, and here's why it's interesting, or why it's important, or why it's something that makes collection interesting for you. Do you think that there will be watchmakers to repair mechanical watches in 20 years? If somebody had asked you that 20 years ago, in 2000, a lot of people would say, "Nah, they'll be all gone." But when you look at all of the work that they're doing to generate scholarships for young watchmakers and so forth, I sort of think, well, there's going to be some people who have real passion for it. Hi, Dorbas. What kind of collector are you? What kind of person are you? What's important to you? What inspires you? Well, if it's Tiger King is the answer to that, that'd be a hard one to answer. I don't know. A Sen 104. Okay, Lee, that's a good start. Why a Sen 104? What is it about a Sen 104 that would be good? What do you think of the new twin beat perpetual calendar from VC? Okay, Matt Isa. I don't know. This is this. We ought to call this the non sequitur theater. But it's we're talking about those things. I tell you the grand complications and a lot of things like that. I don't have an interest in. There's certain things that are really complicated that I barely understand that I am interested in, primarily the Remontois Égalité. But on the other hand, where you have, you know, it's sort of like these Rube Goldberg contraptions with whistles and bells and gears everywhere. But I tend more toward some focal point on something that is amazing, that is run by the expanding mainspring. Now, uh, Marita, that's yours is that is certainly one to do it. Uh, but I tell you, perpetual calendar. Well, I love the perpetual calendar actually from Vacheron Constantin. It's not perpetual; it's just an annual calendar, and it's that triple calendar. I don't even know if it's an annual calendar. I like that a lot. Why, I don't know. Are you asking a brand recommendations or a specific watch? A specific watch. Mark. Let's say that somebody, they're saying, I caught a couple of these shows and I see you guys are all yakking about watches and stuff. I don't have a lot of dough. I think I can put together $1,500, and that's about it. So how would you go about it? While learning everything you can, make sure you pay attention to what touches you emotionally. That's really good advice. All of that's like if something just hits you flat, doesn't do anything for you, that's not one you want. A lot of times if you get in with one group, they'll say, oh, well, you got to have a Rolex, or you get another group is that you want anything but a Rolex, or you get in another group. It depends. There's a lot there, and to a great extent, that depends on the amount of money you have. And that's why I thought, well, we'll take somebody who's in their 20s or something like that, and they got a job and they're working now, and they go to work, and they're thinking about a watch, and then they catch one of our discussions or one of the many watch shows, and they just say, gee whiz, can't afford an FP Journe or a Patek Philippe or a Rolex or even a Man on the Moon. And so, with the amount that you have is that, well, I got to start somewhere. And that's sort of answering that question. Non sequiturs in the live stream comments. When did that start? Okay. Okay, pre-owned Speedmaster, crazy following of this piece is many, many different ones. Okay, Pedro, that's a good one. Okay, one, a watch and a potential collection. Don't go micro brand and go for something you would want to wear later as a mature. That's an interesting one, Fahrenheit. That's a really interesting one. In other words, you figure in your work, you're going somewhere else. Now, remember, this is sort of the budget, John, is $1,500, and when I first started getting into that, I thought a $300 automatic was like rocket to the moon because I never had thought about it. Look at what happened with iPhones. I forgot what they used to cost. They weren't that much, but then they jumped them up to $1,000 for an iPhone, and people were tearing their hair out, going crazy, still buying them, but sort of going nuts about it. And so anyway, it's sort of like, okay, well, we get used to a lot more expensive watches as the foolishness grows within us. But when you're first getting started, it's something interesting and something fun. Some mainly that, I got to watch, and this is what's interesting about it. The Nomos Club, I like that idea. That's another good one. Tissot, yeah, a gray market 7750 base watch. Hi, Bruce. Hair next. Hey, Mark. I recommend Maurice Lacroix. Yes, that's another good one. The Maurice Lacroix. Those are good watches. A used Seamaster or Speedmaster. One, if you could find it, one I like in terms of the Speedmaster is, what is that called? It's an 18 something. It's a hand wound 18 something or other. I don't think you could find an original original moon rocket or moon landing watch, but they have one that's sort of like, it was like a 318 or something like that, and then they made another one that was an improvement on it, but was still hand wound and so forth. Reliability, legibility, accuracy, preferably with a pleasing design and interesting story. Yeah, one of the things that I like the most about watch collection is if you find a watch with an interesting story, it's more fun. I like my Outlaw collection with their Jacquet 736 because it's got an interesting story, and now that I have two, I always have something that's sort of usually affordable that I get to look for. You're going around and you see these watches, 10, 15, 20,000 bucks, or even in my case, 5, 10, 20,000. And then you say, well, there's this little like that Dunhill I ran into. Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. Here's a solid gold Dunhill with a Jacquet 736 on some weird cellar place. And then I got this thing, and it looked like a Pringle potato can, a potato chip can, and the insides were falling off and everything. But I got the watch out. The watch was in perfect shape, and it was everything that was promised. And then I got a new band for it, and my wife took it away from me. So it was, It was, but it was a lot of fun. Still is. Let's see. A Max Bill. Okay, a Max Bill. Okay. 1861. That's it, Clyde. That's the one I was thinking of. I think an Omega Speedmaster with an 1861. Yeah, Bruce. Yeah, thanks, guys. That's the one I was thinking of. That I think is a good watch. It's got a great story. Now, if you can find one, I don't know. Do you guys think you can find one under, under 1500, right around there? One that's not banged up too much. Ball engineer with the Titrium loom. That's an interesting one. Tudor. Can you find GMT Mess? Can you find a Tudor that low, or maybe a pre-owned one? Yeah, that might work. Yeah. Hey, Nine Yellow. My wife has. She's thanks a lot. In other words, oh gee, I like that watch. It's now mine. Off into her case it goes. Hey Daniel, let's see. I bought my Parmigiani Coppa. Oh, thank you. Oh, I love Culpas. I have mine in there waiting for me to put the thingamajig back in my stem, and I'm waiting for my 84-year-old watchmaker so he can do it for me. All it is, it's a matter of loosening that screw that we talked about. You put it in and then you tighten it up again. Let's see. Yeah, Joseph, Nets. This is what I sort of like. Exactly a thing. I wish I had known better. Believe me, I made the same mistake as well. I wish I had known better about a lot of things. I lucked out on some things too, but most of the stuff that worked out was pretty much what Clyde had said. You do your homework and read about it, find out as much as you can, and then get something that that will fit your budget, and that'll work out. I've got my grandfather's pocket watches and a couple from my dad. They're fun to pass down if quality. Yeah, the ones that were passed down to me mostly went to my brother, but that's okay. He's a good guy. A little bit of history is always good when the new wears off. Yeah, I agree. Lee. That's a good point too. Ages ago, I almost bought one of those tags with a plastic bezel in yellow as my first good watch. Dodged a bullet, though. Fahrenheit 451. There's a guy, I think those watches he collects. He loves those tags with a plastic bezel, and he's got all these different colors, and he's nuts about them. And I saw his collection, and it makes him happy. I think that Tag Heuers have essentially there's something to wrap around an ETA movement. But now that that's changed, they're probably wrapping around Solitas. This is the crazy thing about Tag Heuer. Tag Heuer has won several Grand Prix awards, a really surprisingly large number. And what they do, they go out and they make one really incredible watch, and that's it. They make $150,000 watch, put it up there as the one they're trying to sell, and that's the last you hear of it. Really crazy. Had a reasonable deal on a JLC in February. Yeah, if you can find a good, a nice little JLC, that would be a really good one to start with. Hi, Andrews, how you doing? I think people like the Speedy 321 based on the story. Yeah, yes, I agree. Isn't the 1860 whatever you had there? Where is it? Yeah, isn't the 1861? Isn't that a sort of an improvement on a 321 or something like that? Maybe another thing too is because those were based on Lamanias, and so forth. What do you think of starting with a Seiko 5? Whoa. Now my Seiko 5 was under $100, and the most interesting thing about a Seiko 5 is that they have an interesting history. And what, from 1963, I think, is when they started, and they still making that basic watch still. So that might be one. It's sort of a funny thing. Where do you go after a Seiko 5? Uh, I don't know. That's a really interesting question, Mark, and I'm just not sure though. Birth year watches in dial colors that truly mean something to me: green and gold, champagne and salmon dials. Yeah, yeah, I like that too. I have I wanted a brown dial for the longest time, but I didn't end up in getting one until I tried to get a cream colored two different cream colored ones from H. Moser on their center seconds, and finally I found one that was a really good buy, brand new, and it happened to have a brown dial, and I ended up with that. So, you know, there's a lot of contingencies, I think, in watch buying. If you come across the right watch or dial at the right time, that'll work out for you. When I went to get my second FP Journe, I made a deal. I told you guys this before. I made a deal with a guy in Beverly Hills. He was all set for it. So I called the guy and I said, "Okay, we're going to go ahead." This was on an Octa, and he says, "Ah, gee, I'm sorry, but one of my regular customers wants it, so I gotta sort of deal with them." And so I said, "That's okay." It's sort of that I understood. And then I went out and I got a great buy on my Resonance. Well, looking back, the Resonance has come to be one of my very favorite watches. And it just was so happened that the guy that I got my first FP Journe from also happened to get one in. And so there were these contingencies you don't know, that you didn't expect to end up with it, and you did. The same thing with my brown FP Journe. I had made a deal with a guy to get one of the Rolls Royce ones, and when I went to get it, he changed his mind. We had made an agreement, and he, for what, he was in trouble, so maybe that's why he backed out. But is that there are contingencies too, and so one of the things I think is have that in mind. Sometime the contingency will be you're minding your own business, and bam, out of an orange colored sky, right, the right watch comes down. So, do you have any birth year watches other than your VC 1921? uh, no, they were. Never mind. Hey, Drone Tube, what's up? I started with Tag Heuer Carrera Caliber 5. It keeps perfect time, and the finishing is incomparable in that price range. Yeah, see, you can have a Caliber 5, though. Isn't a Caliber 5 on a Carrera really an ETA of some sort? I'm not sure, but I know that their calibers that they have for that are off the shelf are pretty much off of ETA's shelf or Solida's shelf. What does Clyde say? Yeah. My watch buying philosophy is based on compulsion and infuriating miniatures. Yeah. It took me 14 months from the moment I was ready to pull the trigger to find the right price for me, with my crazy OCD collection mentality. It's like watches that I never liked, then I find myself liking them out of the blue, and I'm not even sure how that happens. Hi, Watch Habit, and size is an issue. Yeah, birth years. I got a birth year one. Well, I got one for Clyde. It was a sundial. So, okay, I want a gray dial. Mayrod makes a beauty, but they are sold out. Okay. There's a gray dial. We have that gray dial Rolf Lang that we've been passing around. I like that. I saw the Mark N, who has it now, did a video on that thing. Just blew me away. It just was amazing. Hi, Reza. How you doing? Um, Okie doke. Birth year. From his birth year is 2000. Okay, let's see. Okay, the Carrera is a breed apart. Yeah, Clyde just made a good point. You have some things you got to experience, so you see them. One of the things at the watch shows, the innovation that I really liked was at one of the first watch time shows I went to in New York, and there was Christine Hutter from Moritz Grossmann, and she was there, and there was a watch, and she was winding the it had bar lugs on it, and she was winding away on the bar lug, and I thought, what is that? And it was she was winding a watch, and it was just one of those really interesting things. Um, what would be a better wedding watch? Beauvais 1930, exactly like yours, or Blancpain Villeret stainless steel with moon phase. A wedding watch for yourself, Drone? Are you getting married? Yeah, here's or as a gift for a wedding. I don't know. It's funny. I really enjoy the my Beauvais 1930, and not a lot of people have them. And our truth is, not a lot of people want them. But everybody who sees it really likes it. They say, "Wow, that's a neat watch," but they would not get one for themselves. That's sort of a funny thing, and that's fine with me. Um, it's a fun watch to have. I love that 1930, and it just you're not worried about it, but it's I know the history of this and that and so forth. A lot of fun things. Um, Good point about the crown, Clyde. The numerals are hand painted. Usually, I discover something that I hate, like the small crown on the JLC Reverso or the thickness of the red sea dweller. Okay, something, and he pinches a few links before flipping them. Okay. Um, is there any quartz watch that you're interested in? Uh, Dorbs, the only one I'm really interested in ever probably is the FP Journe Elegante. That one is, that thing is 48 millimeters. That's the only thing that bothers me about it. There's something so unique and so interesting about it, including that little heart that's part of the electrical system. I guess you call it that. That FP Journe put in there, and the little rotor that he put in that keeps the watch, tells the watch that it's still being used and is on. And then the fact that when it goes, when you take it off and go to bed, it turns down, and so the only power is simply almost like down to the ones and zeros, keeping tracking what the time is. And so when you get up, you crank up your watch, and then it goes to the correct time. That I mean, now that is a unique quartz watch, not because of the electronic wizardry with it, but rather because of the mechanical element that turns the watch back on, so it can go into that. So that's, but that otherwise, I really don't have an interest in that. Um, when I was reviewing Healer's Patek Philippe collection, I kept running into Patek Philippe's that I had never really thought too much about, and then I thought, wow, that's a pretty neat watch. People, oh, Patek Philippe, there, of course they are. Well, not of course they are. Some are, some aren't. But it's funny, you find watches or you find something historical about them. Do any of you know the connection between um, Jacques Droz and Parmigiani Fleurier? Does anybody know what that connection is? It's an interesting one. I think Bulova made the first quartz watch, maybe. I've seen it, Junior. A lot of QC issues, as far as I can read. But weddings in India are 3 days and wear different Eastern clothes. How interesting. Hey, the famous Bertman. This guy is really, are you talking to me, in the famous Bertman? Wearing a beret. What's wrong with the beret? What do you wear? A baseball hat? Are you a beret? Are you a baseball player? Man, I tell you, it's so easy to get. This is welcome to non sequitur theater. Oh, okay. They were soulmates. That's it. NS something, the Sandoz family. You're right. The original Jacques Droz married Marianne Sandoz in 1761 or something like that. But to me, those are some of the interesting things. I think Jacques Droz uses PF movement. No, Jacques Droz is owned by Swatch. Andrews wasn't the first electronic watch, no. Pierre Jacques Droz was married to Marianne Sandoz. There you go. Hey, Hans, what's up? Mark, I haven't. Don't worry about that. If somebody doesn't have anything to say about watches, or they don't know anything, they usually say something about my beret, other than Clyde, who he does it to vex me. Don't you? You're free to chosen them. Anyway, well, listen, little over the time now, and I want to thank you all for coming. I want all of you to be safe and take care of yourself. And I'll be back tomorrow. Hi, Raj. How you doing, man? Take care now.